Hello class, welcome to our lesson today that deals with section 5.4 to 5.6, just reviewing a few of the topics that we've talked about the last couple days, and then one other thing about slope that I want to make sure we discuss. Okay, the first group of problems is just solving proportions. So solving proportions, remember everyone should be able to cross multiply, so 10 times 42 should be 7 times x, and divide by 7 on both sides. You should get an answer of x equals 60. Obviously, there's other ways that you could find that, but make sure you're not a cross multiply in order to find that answer. The next one to solve for x, you take x times 2 equals 13 times 10. When you solve for x, you should get 65 by dividing it out. Obviously, you could find a relationship between the top or bottom or left and right. That would also work, but keep in mind that you have to, be able to cross multiply as you're looking at these questions. The next one, you may need to set up your own proportion. So it says for every 6 cups of flour, you need 2 cups of sugar for a recipe. So that would be a 6 cups of flour to 2 cups of sugar equals x over 20.5 cups of sugar. You could do a multiplication piece or just cross multiply again. So that'd be 6 times 20.5 equals 2x. And then divide by 2, and that would be 61.5 cups of flour. The most common mistake on this question is people put the 20.5 on top, and it needs to be on the bottom, or at least match up with the cups of sugar as you're looking at this scenario. The next one's just a review, just to kind of switch gears a little bit. So this says you're painting 4 walls of a shed. Each wall has a rectangle that's 22 feet by 12 feet. So you'll notice here I found the area of one of those, which is 264 square feet by taking 12 times 22. But then you need 4 of those because there's 4 walls that you're painting. And so that becomes 1056 or 1056. Divide that by 330 square feet because a gallon of paint covers about 330 square feet. You get 3.2. Now, if you've ever had to paint large areas before, like the walls of a house, you should always end up with a little bit extra paint just in case, because you never know how it's going to dry or if you have to do another coat and things like that. And so in this case, you'd buy 4 gallons, even though you only need 3.2. This also explains why it seems like in every garage in America, there's about 5 or 6 gallons of partial paint, okay, because you end up with extras, and you don't want to get rid of it necessarily, because what if you had to patch something up and things like that. But that's where that extra paint probably goes, is in a garage or a storage area somewhere for future use. Okay, the next question deals with slope. So remember, slope is the distance or change in y over change in x. So from the first point to the second point. So go from this point up 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so the slope is 4 over 5. The second one, which is something we haven't talked a whole lot about, if any, unless you've researched it a little bit, is the idea of negative slope. So you notice in the first one is going from left to right in an upward direction, think like an uphill, and then the second one's going downhill. If a graph's going in the downhill direction, the slope is not going up and over, it's going down and over. So that's why it's negative 3 over 7, because it's down 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units. So the rise is actually a decrease, so it's down 3, that's why it's negative, and then over to the right 7. Whenever you do slope ideas, always go from the left point to the right point. I think that will help you out in terms of keeping things organized when it comes to finding the slope of a line. The next one is the same question as the last one. It's just not in a graph format. So the graph format question is a little bit easier for students because you can just count up and over. So one option on this question is you could graph it, okay, figure out how far up and how far over you're going to get from one to the other. Technically, this one's going down and over. If you graph the 2 points, it's going in a negative slope direction. One other way that you could do that, which we haven't touched on, but it could be an option, is you could make a table of x and y values. So notice it's x is 19, y is negative 7, x is negative 16, and y is 4. And by definition, slope is the change in the y divided by the change in the x. So that you just ask yourself, well, how do I get from negative 7 to 4? One way that you can find that answer is by taking 4 minus negative 7, or just counting on a number line. And so the distance from negative 7 to 4 is 11. So you're going from negative 7 plus 11 is 4. And the other one is 19 to negative 16. So that's going down. And so 19 plus 16 is 35, but it's negative because you're going from the higher number to the lower number. And then the slope would be the change in the y value, which would be 11, divided by negative 35. You notice I just put that negative sign out front. Either way still does the trick. as you're dealing with the negative sign. So that's something to think about as you're looking at slope questions. The next question says that you have a graph that has a slope of 3/4 and goes through the point -1, 2. And it says to graph the line. Now, for a question like this, it's great if you know how to graph it. You also need to know how to explain it. So if you're going to explain a question like this, you always start with the point. The idea is like if you ask someone for directions from wherever you're at to where you're going, you have to make sure you know where you are first before you give the directions. Because you could say, hey, how do I get to how do I get to this restaurant? How do I get to your house? Or how do I get to the school? The first question that should be asked is, well, where are you right now? And that means you have to deal with the point first. So where are you first? And that graph the point -1, 2, graph that point, and then say, all right, from where you are, go up 3/4 because the slope is 3/4. So that would be from that point, go up 1, 2, 3 units, over to the right, 4 units, put a dot, and then connect them, and make sure it's aligned so there's arrows on the end because that line goes on forever in both directions. The most common mistake is students try to do the slope from 0, 0. Think of it like directions like a GPS. Figure out where you are, and then do the slope or the directions from where you are to where you're going. And that should be able to graph that line in that aspect. One other thing that would be good to look at is the direct variation questions in section 5.6, specifically the one that we talked about where I give you an x and y and say find the constant of proportionality. If you're really confused about section 5.6, my recommendation would be to watch over that video again and make sure you understand what you're looking at to get ready for the test. If there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Also look at the review pages and the worksheets that you've been handed or given or that are online somewhere. And all of those things should help you be a little bit more organized and ready for the test over Chapter 5. Have a good day, everyone.